welcome to the Postmodern Art Podcast, a podcast dedicated to giving artists who are wowing the world over the platform they deserve. I am your host, Nathan Ragland, and why would you look at the time? It's Tagg o'clock. Today's guest is Tagg the Otter, a funny little rascal VTuber that works in AAA game development. Tagg is a great friend of mine that I was more than happy to bring on the podcast to talk about the pixel art they've been able to make, the game development process that they so love and are glad to be a part of, and some of the more interesting content that he has been a part of. In fact, this comes as amazing timing because if you're listening to this the day it premieres or even the day after it premieres, June 3rd, Tagg will be celebrating 1 year of VTubing and streaming with a wonderful little subathon that I think you all should absolutely be a part of. Links will be in the description below for Tagg's Twitch so you can be able to join in on the fun and have a wonderful time. Make sure you also support him with all the other links that are provided down below as well. If you enjoy the podcast, make sure you like, share, subscribe, or follow whatever audio streaming platform you prefer. 5 stars please where you can. I see that stuff. I absolutely love it and gives me so much joy to see that. And hey, if you want to go a little extra mile with that love and support, maybe you should consider supporting the podcast at the Patreon at patreon.com/PMAP. There you can see early releases of the episodes, incredible behind the scenes content, and stuff that was cut for time. Maybe even get an opportunity to ask a guest a question. If this sounds fun for you and something you would like to have for as little as $5 a month, consider going to the Patreon today, patreon.com/PMAP. But now, without further ado, please enjoy the Postmodern Art Podcast. Do you have any questions before we really get started?
No.
No?
We're not recording now. I guess it's the only one I have, right?
Actually, I was, and that's what I was going to ask if it's okay if I include part of this as part of the podcast. I'm not like, going to be, yeah. I always try to at least make sure I ask the guest before. And if you're not comfortable with it, then we could just, whenever the podcast starts, it just jumps right in with the icebreaker question.
Oh, okay. I was like, I don't know if there was gonna be like an action or anything like that.
There will be, as well as I like to include just like the little banter, just to make people feel comfortable.
I get it.
Like I'm not gonna include every little bit of this. There is gonna be some editing to this, but like I said, if you're not comfortable with it, I could just cut it right in with the icebreaker question whenever we get to it.
So what you're saying is right now, this conversation, the things I'm saying right now will not be included. As in the words I'm saying right now are not included right now.
If you're not cool with it, they could be included.
And also these words, and also these words, and also these words.
And those words, and those words, and that word over there, the words that are on the ceiling. Hey, did you notice it says gullible on the ceiling?
I don't know if am I looking up? I can't tell.
You are. You are looking up. So I think that's a sign of you're okay with me including this.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I'm good.
All right, Tagg, before we really get going, I must ask the icebreaker question of the podcast. Let's say you get an opportunity to go to a deserted island on your own accord. It is just you, alone with your thoughts. You get to kick back, relax, breathe a little bit, get to enjoy yourself a little bit. To help make sure you don't go completely insane, though, you can bring one piece of media or one piece of art with you. Something to help you unwind a little bit more. What is that one piece you bring with you?
Oh, I should have prepared. Okay, I think that, this is also assuming that I have everything set up for it. It would have to be video games, obviously. I think that what I would probably like the most is Wind Waker.
Okay.
Yeah. It would get boring after a few hours, but it's one of those things where it's like, you know what? It's been like 8 years on this island. I'm going to go play Wind Waker again.
You get to stay there as long as you want. You don't have to stay 8 years on the island, but... But, okay, is there a particular reason why you think Wind Waker? Is it one of those video games that has like a near and dear place to your heart or something like that, or...
I mean, Legend of Zelda has always been like a big series for me, and I've always loved playing Legend of Zelda. Mm-hmm. Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, I put a lot of hours into those as a kid. But Wind Waker was kind of like the first point where I realized that games can be explorative and also super fun, and you have a big open world. Granted, most of it is just ocean, but it was like... I felt free just sailing around, looking at all the islands, going and discovering secrets and stuff like that. I mean, Breath of the Wild is like is what Wind Waker did for me, but like took it to a completely different level with just freedom to explore and not being set on a specific path.
Right.
But Wind Waker was like the start of that, and I like Wind Waker a lot.
That's fair. Honestly, like knowing, like you said, it's kind of the freedom that Wind Waker kind of gave, especially when people were first introduced to it. Like I can imagine, especially for like when, especially for like a younger mind or whatnot, like how like mind blowing it was the fact that you were allowed such, incredible freedom in such a interesting space.
Yeah, and like I really enjoyed like coming across an island, not having the tools that I need to explore it, and then coming back later with the tools and going, oh, I can do the thing now.
That is,
or like solving the ghost ship thing. That was always cool when I finally figured that out.
oh yeah, no, that was that that was a thing of legend more than anything else. Whenever you can get that figured out.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, Wind Waker, that is your answer. You're locking that in.
Yes.
All right, then. If that's the case, I cannot think of a better way to start the Postmodern Art Podcast. Welcome, everyone. I am your host, Nathan Ragland. Feel free to subscribe or follow whatever streaming platform you prefer. You can support the podcast on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/PMAP. And follow us on Twitter and Instagram at PostmodArtPod for future updates and guest announcements, including today's guest. By day, he works in game development. By night, he is a VTuber that streams a variety of amazing content. But no matter what time, he is an otter. Welcome to the podcast, Tagg the Otter!
Yeah, I couldn't have written a better one.
Thank you. I wrote that, and then I tested it with, was it Patch and Roshan last night just to make sure it was good. And they agreed, so there you go.
I appreciate it.
How are you doing today?
Doing good, doing great. Tired. I was up editing, as you were aware.
Oh, trust me, we're definitely gonna be talking about some of the content you like to get your hand in, such because it's incredible what you've been able to do. But before we really divulge into the stuff you're making now, I want to go back just a little bit, and I want to know more or less the origin stories of Tagg, somewhat. What got you interested in art and video games in the first place?
So you know that I work in game dev, as you said.
Right.
I actually it's kind of interesting. I mean, I've always really loved video games.
Mm-hmm.
Ever since I was a kid. Having a little corner in the house that had a little TV and a little Nintendo 64 where I just played all the games that I had until I burnt out the cartridges.
Right.
But there originally I was not slated to join or to get into game dev originally. When I was old enough, when I graduated from high school, my original thought process was I want to get into chemistry.
Oh, okay.
I want to be a chemist. I wanted to be in the lab. I wanted to be synthesizing chemicals. And so I originally went to university to be a biochemist.
Interesting.
That went on for 3 years. There were some things that happened, and I ended up dropping out.
Fair.
Depression and like that. I was at that point where I was ignoring a lot of heavy stuff and just not paying attention to my emotions.
Right.
And that was like that was the year that I was like, oh, I have clinical depression, and then I dropped out. And then I ended up taking a year off, and I was just working and just trying to, gather the broken pieces of myself to put them back together. And then I went back to school, and I went to school for computer programming analyst.
Okay.
And while I was in the project, the course coordinator was talking about someone that did the same course that I did, and he took his resume to BlizzCon and got an interview with them, and 2 months later got a job with Blizzard, and he was responsible for updating all of the water physics and graphics with the switch to Cataclysm. And I remember hearing that story, and I went, I'm gonna work in game dev. And I wish it was, and it's easier said than done, right?
Right.
But I did my 3 years of computer programming analyst, so I have a programming background. And there's a medieval event that I go to once a year that I was in 2015, and I met someone there that worked at the current company I work at, and that was my in. And so when I got out of school, or the last year of school, I was applying every year to that company, and I got out of school. 3 months later, I got a job.
Nice. That is a major freaking one up opportunity for you right there.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, this is not where I planned to. This is not where I expected to be at all. I never expected to get in game dev,
Right.
let alone even content creation. I think that content creation came more out of left field than game dev did.
That I can only imagine, and I definitely will talk a little bit more about that in a second. But I want to go back just a little bit. Would you say kind of the introduction to the friend that got the job through Blizzard, was that kind of more or less the moment where you realized went from just like a general love for like art and video games in general to a passion, then wanting to make it your career? Like, do you remember like a specific moment to where it just kind of clicked, like, oh, this is where I want to be. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like I knew that I wanted to get into it when I heard that story like day one of the program. But then we got into working with Unity and Unreal Engine, and I have the ability to program. I mean, it's been 5-6 years now since I've actually done any programming, just because my job has changed.
Right.
But like I remember sitting in Unreal Engine and Unity and just messing around with it and going, "Oh my God, this is fun! I like doing this." And it was always at this point as well that I've always enjoyed telling stories,
Right.
and presenting story for people to engage with and interact with, and be within this sandbox. And game dev was kind of the route that I saw and wanted to do. And I don't know if it was a lack of just knowing if there was any other if there were any other paths I wanted to take, or more if it was just like an interest in. But game dev is where I wanted to go specifically.
I mean, it's certainly a good mentality and a good thing to achieve more than anything else. Seeing how you are in, like I said before, you're in game dev right now, I think you've more or less like somewhat achieved the dream, or at least on the path to the ultimate dream, whatever that may be. I mean, it's still incredible the fact that like you said, considering your story up to that point, it's incredible that you've been able to get to like this point right now. Like, nothing but applause for you.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it was not easy. Granted, okay, I will say this. A lot of people also ask me this too. Is like, how do you get into game dev? Like, what's the best path? And honestly, it is as much luck as it is having the skill. Because when it comes to game dev, a lot of companies care more that you'll vibe well with them than it is that you have the skill, because they can teach you that skill.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think what you said right there is not just with video games, but I think anything with the entertainment industry. It's like, it's incredible to know all this stuff, but it's also kind of the luck of who you know and what you're able to apply to certain projects and stuff.
Yeah, and I wish it wasn't, to be quite honest, because there's a lot of creative people that just don't have that opportunity. And one of the things that I've tried to do, in game dev and where I work, I'm like, hey, like I want to be an open door for people and help them get in as much as possible. Because I mean, barriers of entry piss me off.
Yeah. That's fair. That's very fair.
I want to be something that is a reason why they don't exist.
And
it's a little optimistic, I know, but
I mean, it's still a good mentality to have more than anything else, especially with how much video games have grown within like the past 20, 10, hell, even 5 or 2 years alone, with how they've kind of grown and how they developed or whatnot. Like, we need more people are kind of needed for video games, especially if it's expected to maintain kind of the momentum it's kind of developed, in its lifetime or whatnot. And if there's a lot of gatekeeping and a lot of the same people doing the same stuff, it's just not going to end well.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that... So I work in AAA specifically, and there are two main... I think I would probably put two main reasons why a game will be terrible. And the first reason is being loyal to investors, because they don't see the game as a piece of art. They just see it as a way to make money.
Yep.
And the second big thing that causes a game to fail is large egos. When you have people that have been in the industry and they are the quote unquote big names that are like, oh, I'm a titan in the industry, you have to listen to me. It's like, no, you are someone that worked on you worked on a game that got big like 10 years ago. Calm down. Like, yeah, it's people that really get into their heads. And I mean, like, don't get me wrong, there are the titans of industry that I look up to.
Right.
Yoko Taro specifically, for his style of storytelling. Hideo Kojima was a really big and like a really big like, oh, I want to be like him. But now I realize he's kind of an asshole, and when you have a team of like 100 people working on a game, and at the very beginning you have directed and created by Hideo Kojima, like fuck off. Like it's not just you. You're not the messiah of video games. You are a person who told other people how to make the game.
Right. Right. I mean, I was gonna say like those are definitely major factors. I would also say like a third factor for the what you were talking about would probably be like somewhat unrealistic expectations, because I think it's a combination of the investors and the big names or whatnot. But it's like they're expected this kind of thing in this amount of time, and that kind of just forces everyone into the ever so forbidden word of crunch.
Yeah, we actually have a word. We also have a word for that too. It's called scope creep.
Scope creep.
Yeah, and the gist of that is you have a game, you have the ideas that you have in mind, and as you're going through with it, you get more excited. You go, oh, what if we add this? What if we add that? What if we add more stuff into it? And then you just keep adding to the scope of your game. And so not only does the project take longer, it also just you have more mandates, you have to spend more money on it. And at the end of that, that's the reason why you have crunch. One of the we have project managers specifically for that to make sure it's like, hey, we got to stay on target. We can't add too many features, and we want to avoid crunch as much as possible.
Right.
Because crunch culture. I mean, crunch will happen.
Right.
Crunch is fine. Crunch culture is the issue, which is I want to like make sure that that's the definition that's put in there.
Right.
Because I mean, you're gonna be putting a lot of time in, especially when release gets close. But how it is presented and what is expected of you in that crunch is what matters.
Right.
Noodle actually did a really. I don't know if you do you know who Noodle is?
I was literally just about to bring up that video because I didn't know.
Yeah, that's the reason why I said crunch is not bad. Crunch culture is the problem, and it's because of Noodle's interview with game devs.
Yes, I was gonna say like the way for those that haven't seen the video, one, I'll have it linked in the description below to make sure you guys see it because it's an incredible video. But also like the way that he describes it is perfect. It's one of those like there's the crunch, or I think it was either him or the person that was behind like the Halo thing or whatnot. But either way, there's the good kind of crunch where it's like a person gets like in the zone and then they're just doing their own thing and then they realize, oh, I've been here for like 11 hours. Oops. Like there's that kind of crunch, and if the person is willing and okay and willing to take the time afterwards to like decompress after that, like that's good crunch. Bad crunch is whenever you're forcing people to basically live at your studio.
Yep. I will say this: my studio is really, really good at not crunching.
Good.
So they've been pretty good about that. I mean, they're also pretty good at taking care of us too. So I'm very glad that I'm working at a company that doesn't have bad crunch culture.
Right. I mean, it's incredible to hear like the stories that are out there. It's just sad, at least for me, it's sad to hear that like it's something that it's going to take something drastic before something like that really kind of goes away, sadly. I mean, hopefully steps are being made toward it to where it's not the reality, but who knows how far we are from that kind of thing. But I mean, hopefully the employees are. I need to tread lightly because I don't want to say the wrong thing. Hopefully,
no. Say if you say it, I'll correct you if it's wrong.
I was gonna say hopefully the employees are willing to understand their limits and willing to do what it takes to make sure that their interest is as good as the game's interest or the studio's interest.
Yes. I mean, with that being said, of course, there will always be the issue with the company not lining up with their employees.
Right.
And I mean, we've seen that with Blizzard, for sure. I mean, and the worst part about that is Blizzard's been like that since 2004. They have always been that bad, and it only got worse with Activision buying them out. With that being said, with Ravenloft unionizing, I feel, I hope, I beg that this is a sign of the coming times that game devs are going to start unionizing.
I'm right there with you. But nevertheless, nevertheless, hopefully, like whether or not there's a unionization or whatnot, hopefully you're still hoping to be a part of it one way or another. And I think it's incredible, more or less, the fact that you've like really divulged yourself, especially when it comes to like game design. So the fact that you had, I assume, was a major love for video games, kind of more or less growing up. I mean, we kind of established that with both the icebreaker and the intro, more or less. But for you personally, like, what is it about video games that just captures like your love and imagination?
That's a deep question. I think that there's always a level of escapism. Um, you know, uh, I think that's the big one for me is escapism because I've spent hours just trundling around in Banjo Kazooie just because I liked the design of the worlds and I wanted to explore things, and all the time that I've spent in Breath of the Wild just exploring and getting good shots and stuff like that, and all the time that I spend in World of Warcraft just because it's fun. It's a fun, good world to be in. That's kind of the big thing for me. But as I have like that was the basis. That was where everything started.
Right.
And now that I have gotten into game dev and I've sort of started to find my place in it, for me it's a medium for storytelling. Um, my goal one day would hopefully to be open up my own studio,
Right.
because I think that indie is has a little bit better of a reputation than AAA. I mean, it also you get egos in indie as well, but I digress. Um,
I say let's just remember Fez.
yeah,
That's all we're saying.
yeah, yeah. And I just I want to tell story. I want to tell interactive story. That's kind of the thing that it's evolved. It went from escapism to just wanting to tell stories.
Right. Right. Would you say like the storytelling aspect is more or less your favorite part of a video game, just the way that is able to interpret whatever story it is and be interactive with the person to where they're as involved with the story as possible?
I think it's equal parts mechanic as well.
Right.
Because there's a I don't remember where I heard this, but someone somewhere told me that the way when Nintendo is creating their games, they come up with a fun mechanic and then they create the story around that. And I like that a lot. If I were to, be a lead on my own game, that's probably how I would handle it. It's like, okay, we need a fun mechanic and then we're gonna make a story around it.
That's honestly smart. I mean, especially seeing like just Mario alone, looking at that one alone, especially like the most like just looking at any Mario game, seeing kind of, I'm not gonna say the gimmick, but kind of the mechanic that they want to like enforce their game around, and then creating an incredible story around that mechanic. Like honestly, that
Mm.
point that you're talking about really illustrated first and foremost right there, especially like the obviously the most recent one that I can think of is Odyssey with the
Hmm.
hat mechanic, which was, it was brilliant how they were able to implement it, and then the story they told alongside it like just worked perfectly for it.
Yeah, I mean, Mario is not known for its storytelling, right?
Right.
but but there is a story there,
Hmm.
right? And I mean, it falls in tandem with the mechanics, and it facilitates the mechanics really really well, which I really really like. And I mean Nintendo and the Mario team have also just like they have what they know works and they just stick with it.
Yeah.
And they I think I would say that they don't innovate, but I mean Mario Odyssey shows that they do,
Hmm.
and I think that a lot of these games that have been around, like these franchises that have been around for so long, they're starting to learn. Oh, we got to change things up a little bit more.
Right.
So that's why you have like Odyssey, you have like Pokemon Arceus,
Hmm.
and things like that. It's really nice to see, and it's breaking some molds, and I like to see that.
Yeah, it's refreshing more than anything else.
Hmm.
Um, do you remember like the first video game for you that more or less like really, I guess, would more or less be like a cultural awakening for you to like how incredible video games can be?
Probably the first video game I ever played, which was Donkey Kong Country.
Okay, okay, that's
Yeah,
fair.
yeah. I mean, that was that. My mom came home with a Super Nintendo and came home with. I want to say this because there's actually probably two games. There's
Okay.
one game that was like the what a good game can be, and then there's another game that was what a bad game can be. So like the first one was Donkey Kong Country, and I mean
Hmm.
that was like a 2.5D game, and it was like really really good. It was like one of the it was I mean it's good. Like anyone that's played, it's like yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
And then everyone else that I've talked to knows the other game, which is the Lion King for Super Nintendo. Just the look on your face tells me you know exactly what this game is.
Oh, I know exactly what the game is.
That is an example of bad game. That is a bad game. And like, okay, I have a story. I'm going to tangent for you.
Go for it.
That game specifically, when I was a kid, I had that game for the Super Nintendo, and I lived in a small town at the time.
Hmm.
And my mom went and rented a video game from like the local Blockbuster. I liked that game more than Lion King, and so when it was time to take that rented game back, I put Lion King in there instead.
Mm-hmm.
I think my mom came up with like Mega Man X or something, and Mega Man X is also just one of my favorite games of all time.
Fair.
So my mom takes the rental box and goes to bring it back, and she stops, and she has that like mother intuition of, my son did not put the game back, and she opens it up, and lo and behold, Lion King is inside. Now, okay, I'm gonna tell you. Okay, this is gonna go places. I'm gonna tell you right now. This is a small town. It's still not great, but I'm laughing about it now. So at the time, my mom was dating a cop
Okay.
of a small town, and she looks at me and she goes, Tagg, did you put the wrong game in here? And I went, well, I like the other game better. I don't like that one. They can take that one. I want this one. And she's like, Tagg, that's stealing. And I was like, no, I'm sorry. I want it. And then my mom takes me into the car. This was on the weekends. Like, she puts me in the car, takes me downtown to like the small police office where they just have like a drunk tank. She walks in, goes, my son stole, and they go, all right, he's going to jail. I'm like, no, I don't want to go to jail. And they just like, they take me, they made sure that there was no one back there. It was literally just me back there.
Right.
And, so, like, and then they put me in the drunk tank for like 20 minutes, and I'm like in there, and they close the gate, and I'm like, no, I won't steal again. I won't steal again. Don't do that. It's pretty messed up.
Yeah. Let's install some childhood trauma into this kid.
And you know what the funny thing is too is my mom is gonna be watching this interview.
Well, I mean,
so guess what, Mom?
I would say
the whole world knows.
I would say, to be fair, you did say you laugh about it now. I mean,
yeah, and I also can't. Don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that.
It's kind of fucked up.
It is, but I mean, nevertheless, going to the beginning of the story, it's incredible to know like how young, especially how young you probably were, how instantly you know what a good game was from a bad game already. I remember, like, for me growing up, one of the games I would always constantly play, and I don't know why I constantly played it, probably because it was like one of the few games that like my family would have, because we had an Xbox. I would constantly play the Madagascar, the video game that came out on Xbox.
Yeah.
And like, Don't get me wrong, it's not exactly the greatest thing of all time, but for me it was easy.
You know, I think that, like, especially like the Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64 era of video games, we were still trying to figure out what makes a good game.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I don't think we really figured out what makes games fun until I think that like some people started to get the idea around Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64, but we really figured it out, and you know, we had classes on this now probably around like Xbox area, I would say.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just an idiot. Who knows? There's probably like an exact date, but I'm not. That's why I'm not giving it an exact date.
True. I was gonna say, to be fair, like, it's not like the only thing I played was the Madagascar game. I still had like the Halos and like the classics and stuff like that. I am not an uncultured child. Thank you very much.
Yeah. And like there was and the other part too is that there are games that people are like, this game fucking sucks. I'm like, no, this game is awesome.
Yeah.
Like there was like one game that comes up into mind, and I've been trying to find this so I can play it on stream. It's the Final Fantasy Mystic Quest.
Oh.
It was the Final Fantasy 1 that was made for the Western like us in the West, and I really want to play it because I remember having good memories of it. But granted, I know that the moment I play it, I'm gonna go, oh, this sucks.
It's incredible what rose-colored glasses will do to visuals. Do you have a, like, this is probably gonna be one of the hardest questions that you've had to answer all day. Do you
They've all been hard. Are you kidding me?
I appreciate that. Thank you. That means I've gotten to you to think. Anyways, what was I gonna say? So, it could be like a top 3 or something like that, but whenever I say favorite video games, I know it's hard because of the wide plethora of video games that are out there. Do you at least like have a couple that come to mind when I say what is your favorite video game?
I have a list of my top 10 from the last decade.
Okay.
So because I like to think of like, I mean, I didn't really start doing this until like, you know, for 2010 to 2020, because I started game jam, like, you know, I'm gonna start thinking about video games in a light of why I like them.
Right.
And I know you said like top 3, but I'm sorry, I can't do 3. I have 10. They're in no specific order.
Go for it. I'm not holding you back. Okay.
There's a couple caveats here, is that these are games that came out, and I think that they Personally, I think that they changed the scene as what it means to be a game, what makes a game fun. And in addition, these are also games that I also found personally good
Okay.
for other reasons other than, oh yeah, it's a good game. So like, okay, so again, this is no like discernible order. It's just a list of 10.
Go for it.
So the first one is Breath of the Wild.
That's fair.
The reason it's on there is because that one changed what an open world game is, and we are seeing the fruits of that labor in other games now. Like we saw it in Phoenix Immortals Rising. We see it in Elden Ring. Because that game was like, go have fun, and we were like, we will, and we're gonna make other games that are just like this.
I mean, to be
Right?
fair,
Like,
I'll say to be fair, and you can correct me if I'm wrong with this. It's not like good game development takes a good couple of years. Like the certain fact that like that game came out in 2016, like it's easy to see kind of the fruits of that labor finally bearing fruit. You know.
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of people don't understand that games take like 3, 4, 5 years to develop.
If done properly,
I've
I've heard games being
Yep.
developed in like less than a year or two, and those are the ones that you hear Matt McMuscles talking about on What Happened. So,
Yep. What's that quote? Is that a pushed back game that's good? Oh God.
I know what you're talking about. It's like like super butchered or whatnot, but it's like a good game. Basically, a good game will take its time. A bad game gets shoved out to the world, essentially.
Yeah, pretty much. I wish I knew that quote off by heart, but I think that your viewers hopefully will know what I'm talking about.
Yes, hopefully.
Yeah. Okay. The next game on my list is Undertale.
Fair. That is also very fair.
Because I mean that one's also that one there is personal because that game fundamentally changed who I am as a person. Specifically because of the mercy mechanic.
Yeah.
And understanding and I mean just the ending of that. I mean it's also one of the few games that made me cry at the end. So that's also why it's on here.
The storytelling of that one is an art form on its own. Okay.
Exactly. And I mean it's not technologically advanced. It was done by one dude.
Yes.
Right? Like that's but a game being done by one dude is very few and far between, and I guarantee that there are more failures than there are successes. But yeah, that game has been a cultural shock too, and it's so much so that Matt Pat gave it to the Pope, which okay.
Look, it's Matt Pat. What'd you expect? I mean,
yeah, like Matt Pat. Listen, Matt Pat. I know that you're watching this. I've got a love-hate relationship with you, bro.
Yeah.
You've got some good ideas, but also, bro, what the fuck?
I will say this when it comes to Matt Pat. I admire his hustle and the time and dedication he has put to his content. Like, that is something to admire on its own because the success that he has gotten.
YouTube grind set. That's what it is.
Yes. It's one of those, like, I appreciate the effort, but at the same time, like,
Yeah, listen, it's that other concept of, like, sometimes a chair is just a chair.
Yep.
Like the reason why something is in a video game is literally just to save time. Like it's like, oh god, there's that painting of the restaurant, and they're like, why did you not add a door to it? Because like, oh god, oh fuck, oh god, I forgot to add, god damn it, not again, I forgot to add a fucking door. Like, you know the painting I'm talking about, right?
I know which one you're talking about.
What is the name of that painting?
I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but
but
it's like that diner scene, right? It's like the diner on the
Yes.
corner. I know what you're talking about. I've seen it a million times over. I just don't know the name of it off the top of my head.
Yeah, but the diner in the corner, yeah. All right. Next game. Again, this is also one that culturally changed things. For better or for worse at this point, I don't know, because the accessibility in games is something I also think about a lot. But
Right.
the game is Dark Souls.
Okay.
Dark Souls 1 specifically because I could say Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 3 for the specific reasons that those games added innovation into game dev, but Dark Souls was the start of it. And we've spawned a whole genre of Souls-like games. And like I personally don't like that descriptor of like I don't like the descriptor of Souls-like or Metroidvania because that it's like this game. It's like no, please make the game stand on its own legs.
Right. It's one of those like people hear that name and they instantly think, oh, so it's exactly like this, but somehow different, which is like,
yeah, and then they're
yes and no.
down. It's not exactly, and then they're like, it's not exactly like this other game that you called it like, and now I'm upset and I don't like it anymore. And it's like, bro, this game is like different. Like, give it a chance.
Right.
Just because it's not Dark Souls doesn't mean like Jedi Fallen Order is a quote unquote Souls like, and it's amazing. It's got great story. I love that game.
Absolutely.
The next game on this list is Fallout 4.
That's fair. That is very fair.
Yep. I mean, people go, why? Like, why not Fallout 3 or why not any of the other, like, Oblivion games? Like, well, okay, Fallout 4 was the start of, like, a... It's hard to explain because, like, Fallout 4 did something much different than Oblivion and Fallout 3, and it was again more player freedom of like, oh, you can build anywhere.
Right.
I mean, granted, there were like specific spots that you could build, but I also really liked the story of Fallout 4 a lot.
Yeah.
And the way that they told that story was so much more different than how they told it in other games. It's hard to explain because like people, I was gonna say, personal thing for me, I guess, but.
I was gonna say, like, I can understand where you come from. Kind of like, yes, like you're not dissing like Fallout 3 or Oblivion by having Fallout 4 on there. It's one of those like it took what those games did, fine tuned it and reinforced it, and then add something a little different to where it was its own unique experience on its own that you appreciate.
Yes, I think that honestly, I think that Skyrim could also take this place as well,
right?
Because it took the super nicheness of Oblivion and Morrowind and made it accessible to everyone.
Yeah, right? made it accessible to everyone, especially if you have, let's see, Switch, PlayStation, Xbox, PC, Amazon Alexa.
Todd Howard could milk a stone, like, and continue to get milk from that stone. Are you kidding me?
It just works, okay?
Yeah, it does. It does. I mean, he's gonna keep doing it until you keep buying it.
There you go.
All right, the next game on my list, Hyper Light Drifter.
Okay.
This one is interesting. The game itself is good, and also shows that a 2D, like a 2.5D game, can be fantastic. But the story behind it is also inspiring. The guy that created it and created the company Heart Machine has a heart defect.
Oh.
And he was like, I'm going to create something that outlasts me because I'm pretty sure I'm going to die. And I mean, he's still around. He's still kicking. And they're making Hyper Light Drifter 2.
Nice.
They're also working on another game, which Zoe Quinn is working on as well, which I'm very excited about.
Okay.
And like, the story behind it. I'll see if I can find like the Heart Machine interview they did with Vice. Because I watched that and I went, oh my God, I like this game a lot. And this is the reason why behind it, the reason it was made. Oh my God, video games can be made other than as pieces of art. That was the moment I realized like video games can be made as pieces of art. Right? I mean, I don't think he had anything in mind for like monetary, like a monetary reason behind it. He's like, I just want to make something that's going to outlast me because I'm going to die soon. He hasn't died yet, thankfully.
But I was going to say, but it's an interesting thing that I'm glad you mentioned, like, video games can be an art with that one, because I think for him, like you said, it wasn't like he was making it to make money or anything like that. He had a love and passion for this stuff that he wanted to push out to the world and basically like bear his heart and soul out to the world of something that he felt near and dear about, and people came around and loved and appreciated it for what it is. That for me is the baseline for what art is. That is why I consider video games easily an art form.
Yes, totally agree. And I think that was also probably, if you look behind me and also look at me, it's probably the inspiration behind pixel art. Yes,
and I'll definitely talk more about that. But if you want to continue your video games, let's go.
All right. I'll bang through the rest of these here. I think because I don't know how you are on time.
Oh, I don't. But I can take as long as you want. I don't care. I will make it work.
All right. The next game on my list is No Man's Sky.
Okay.
The reason being that a game can recover.
Right, absolutely.
Because No Man's Sky was super hyped up, and when it released, everyone was mad because it did not deliver. Right. But if you look at the Steam page for it now and all of the changes that have been made to it, it has turned around significantly. In fact, it was the first game I ever streamed.
Really? Okay.
So yeah. Yeah, that's why No Man's Sky is on there, and it's also just a pretty game, and it is. It has a really good idea. It's literally a universe.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
It's fantastic. Yep. Next game. I think that I'm just going to say the name and move on because I think it speaks for itself. Minecraft.
Fair. Yep. Okay.
Yep.
Say no more.
It's. Yeah, we know enough about Minecraft.
It's a good foundation and a pillar for video games. That's all we need to say.
Yep. And also, it's been given us to by our Lord and Savior Hatsune Miku. The next game on this list, which I literally just like dunked on Hideo Kojima, but Death Stranding.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Death Stranding was a game that I recently played and played to completion.
Mm-hmm.
And I love Death Stranding. And I like it because it did something different and unique. People be like, "Oh, well, I mean, it's just a walking simulator." Yeah. So what? I liked it. It was fun. It did something interesting. The story was, I mean, it's bad for the reasons that Hideo Kojima's stories are bad, like Phantom Pain and Quiet going, "No, she has to be wearing skimpy clothes because that's how she breathes." Like, okay, like whatever. You could have done better, but okay, like it's story, make it up. But like, I mean, and that's the reason why it failed. But at the same time, like Death Stranding has some very unique characters.
Mm-hmm.
It has a very unique gameplay system, and it takes some stuff that they do in Metal Gear and was like, what if we make a game mechanic around this? It was experimental, it was fun, and also it's another one of those games that made me cry at the end, and it was really good. And I mean, my takeaway from that story was as well is that it's a story about fatherhood,
Right.
and it was just a really good story. I stuck with it. I'm very excited about the new. Excuse me. Sorry, I gotta get some water. Hang on.
1 second. Let me get the hydrate routine going.
Sorry. Sorry, I was like choking on my own spit. But yeah, like I'm very excited for the new update to the director's cut of Death Stranding, and I really want to play it. I don't know if I'm not going to stream it, but it's one of those games that's personal to me, right?
Right. That's fair.
Yeah. Next on this list is Nier Automata.
Okay. Okay. I've heard a lot of good, amazing things about it.
Yep. I mean, this is also when I found out about Yoko Taro, I was like, oh, I like you a lot because Yoko Taro is like unabashedly like, yeah, the reason why 2B looks like that is because I just like girls. Girls are pretty.
Unapologetic.
And like he's unapologetic. He doesn't beat around the bush, and he doesn't try to like hide it in this vague like, actually this is the reason why it has to be like. He's like, no, I just like cute girls. And don't like there's nothing wrong with that either. Right. You know? I like it's not it's also just a very, very good story. The game itself is like 3 different games in one. Yeah. They also took this one zone that they had and made it work for more content. Like they were talking about, like we had a huge. Like they were talking about, like we have a huge scope for this game, but we had to cut a lot of it, and so we only had the one big map that we could work with, and we made you. That's why we made you play it 5 times. Literally smart, 5 times, and yeah, and it's really smart. And I've always been a huge advocate for reusing assets in video games. Right. So when someone says, "Well, why does this thing look like that?" It's because the dev didn't want to die. Like, shut up. Yeah. But yeah, also and this was my introduction to Yoko Taro, and Yoko Taro is fantastic, and I'm a big fan. And I also really, really enjoy the Nier series and just the story that it told. It made me feel miserable at the end, which is also fantastic.
Fair. The
final game on my list is Celeste.
Okay. Ooh. All right. There we go.
For like 3 billion reasons. I mean, Celeste is a game. It is a great accessibility game. Mm-hmm. As hard as it is, it's also an accessibility game. Because anyone can play it and still have fun with it, right. And you can still make the challenge of it however you want. Because you can get all the strawberries, you can get all the tapes. The story itself is also absolutely fantastic. When I first played it, I was on medical leave from work for about a year, and I just picked up Celeste because I didn't have anything else to play, and I was like, I'm too depressed to play anything else. And I played Celeste, and for me, at the time, this was also before the dev, said what the game is actually about. Mm-hmm. It was a game about battling depression. And that game helped me get through that. And the other reason I also really, really like this game is because trans representation. Yes. I am a huge advocate for trans rights. Most of my friends are trans. You
I
know,
was
and
I was gonna say like the biggest one that I can think of that you and me share is obviously Grandpa. I mean,
I have people in my life, personally as well, that are also trans, and trans rights has been a big thing for me. And there was there was a turning point for me as well, with a friend that I have known for 20 plus years.
right.
She I've known her since high school. She has been very important in my life. We would joke that we were each other's wives before she came out, and that was a joke that her parents did.
Oh wow.
And so and this was also like this was when I was a piece of shit in high school, and I'm glad I'm not. I'm glad that where I am now, and why I advocate for, rights of any of marginalized individuals as much as possible. And there was this moment where, my best friend of 20 years comes to me and says, I'm trans. And I knew at that moment, I was like, I'm it's not a question of, whether I need to accept it or not. It's that I'm going to accept it and I need to change. And and that was like a big moment for me. And Celeste is when I found out that Celeste is also about the trans experience, and I went, I related to this in a way that I had this conversation with Monty Moel, is like finding a relationship like this is going to be really hard to explain because
Right.
it is a trans story. And what we realize is that, relating to a trans story, even though I'm not trans myself, is still a good thing.
It's a very good
Like
thing.
yeah, and we need more of that, of people going like, despite the fact this is a trans story, you find a relation to it that, speaks to you. And I think that for other people that, maybe don't have the the mindset of, hey, we should like have rights for minorities, having a story that you can relate to is like, oh, they're just like us. Like we had this conversation, it went a lot more in depth, and I'm very cautious about how this sounds when I'm trying to like sum it up.
Right.
But I mean, I think that I've made my point that I'm a huge trans rights advocate, and knowing that I related to this story, even like after realizing, oh, it was a trans story, like I think that it's cemented to me like, oh, there are reasons beyond the fact that it's a depression story for me, that it also resonates with me and resonates with the people that I care about in my life.
Exactly. Exactly. That is wonderfully worded, if I do say so myself. I think you've gotten the
Yeah.
point across very well. And never, like, especially with, games like that and stories like that, being able to tell that kind of story, like, it's always incredible how they're able to relate that. And I for the next question, I'm wondering, like, for you, like, do you think working in game development, working alongside some of these some incredible games as well, do you think that gives you a greater understanding for video games as a whole and like the stories they're trying to tell?
Absolutely. It also gives me insight into the actual development itself. Okay, like I have a question for you.
Go.
When you think of a game dev, what do you think that what do you think that person is?
Like just the singular
What is
game developer.
the average game dev? What do you think they're like?
I think it's one of those, like, well, for like me, I like to think a little bit more behind the scenes than probably some people. So, like, first off, whenever I think game developer, I know it's not just a singular game developer. It's a team of people, at least for
Yep.
me. But it's one of those, like, they are trying to do as best as they can to work with many different aspects of it to make sure that a product is delivered the best way possible.
I was more talking about like their personality. That's why I was
Oh,
trying. That's why I was
personality.
pointed individually. Like, what do you think like the individual person is like? Okay, wait. Let me word it to you this way. How much of their life do you think is taken up by video games?
Oh, I imagine like if it's not the entirety of their life, at least a good like 75% of it. 'Cause in fact, that for I imagine for a lot of people, like they grow up loving video games and they want to be able to tell a story in that singular way. So it's one of those, like, hopefully they would have a similar love to video games so that they know that the games they're going to be pushing out is
Okay.
made with that same love.
All right. Are you ready for my hot take?
Go for it.
The best game devs are not gamers.
Okay. Okay.
They like video games and they enjoy them, but their entire personality is not surrounded by video games.
Right. Right.
They have other hobbies and other aspects. In fact, like there are people that I work with. They're like, I've never played a game from this company. I've literally never done it. And I like there was one person that one of my coworkers is a comedian.
Really?
Yeah, she has never worked in game dev. This is her first time in game dev, and her background is she's a comedian.
Okay. Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah, and honestly, like the best game devs have all been people that don't have video games like just their entire lives and their entire mindset. And the reason for that is when you have more hobbies and more skills and you do more stuff than just play video games, sure, it gives you the technical mindset of like what it mean what a game is and what makes a good game, what makes a bad game. But having these experiences that you can pull from makes it so much better. Like I pull when I was, when like the game that I work on now, I'm able to pull the fact that I worked with the Canadian military for like 4 years. And I also, the fact that that I do writing in my spare time and I tell stories in my spare time is the reason why I'm a technical writer now, as opposed to being a release and build specialist.
Right.
They were like, "Oh, you actually have these hobbies outside and these skills that you've been honing that make that makes you fit this position that we have really, really well. We want to give you a shot." That's why, like, one of the big things I always tell people is like, don't have video games consume your life. Have other hobbies.
And you know what? As you describe it and like explain it, it honestly makes sense because it's one of those like I imagine if people that are working in video games are just loving nothing but video games, they're just gonna be comparing themselves to other video games, and that's not gonna really push the needle forward or anything like that. But if they bring
Yep.
some sort of like outside influence into their work or whatnot, it could really create something unique for each individual gaming experience.
Exactly. And especially one of the projects I was working on, it was a small so while I work in AAA, I have had I like to think that it's the indie experience with a team of like 15 people.
Okay.
And yeah, again, that was a game where like none of us were quote unquote gamers. All of us had other hobbies and other things that we did. And it was probably the most stable a team I've ever been on. It was fantastic, and I mean, with a small team like that, you learn that you can just like you can be like, hey, maybe we should add this to the game, and they go, oh yeah, it's a good idea, because
Yeah.
it's 15 voices as opposed to like a team of 2,000 set across the entire like 6 different studios, right?
Right, 6 different studios, at least like what 3 different continents or something like that. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's incredible. No, like thinking about it and like it makes sense. I mean, I imagine the only people that are really going to be criticizing that kind of mentality are people that consider themselves gamers or whatnot. It's like, at the end of the day, like we said, you need some sort of outside influence because otherwise it's not going to really do anything if you're just comparing yourself to another video game.
Yep.
Yep.
And we have devs that are just gamers, and they're great to work with. Sorry. Yeah. I'm not naming names. I'm not naming names, but yeah.
It's one of those, you know who you are. No, I'm joking. But I'm glad you did bring up the fact that, like, on top of like video games, obviously, like you have a good bit of other hobbies that you like to indulge in. We'll definitely talk about probably one of the biggest ones here in a little bit, but I want to talk about a little separate one that I truly admire as an art podcast, and that's the pixel art you've been able to do. What exactly got you interested in creating pixel art in the first place?
I'm bad at art.
No, not on this podcast. You are not going to tear yourself down. No, you were not bad at art. No bad mouth on this podcast.
I'm bad at digital art.
And what is pixel art then? Is it not a digital art?
It is. Yes, you're right. It is. Okay, so I was being facetious and being cheeky because my start to art was actually classic art, like modern painting, like acrylic paintings. And when I was going through my night training, my knight said, you can't just have martial skills. You need to have like cultural skills as well. And so he invited me over to his house, and there was a canvas and some paint, and he said, I want you to paint a feeling. And this was also, I was on medical, this was the time that I was on medical leave as well. So painting a feeling was pretty dark.
Yeah. At least it's good to get inspiration from.
The painting was called 3 months Later, I think.
Okay.
And it was, he told me to paint a feeling. And so here I am just like taking the paint and just kind of exploring around on the canvas and just putting things down. And then I started to get into it, and I started to just like, I took like a paint scraper and I started mixing all these colors of blacks and blues and putting in some whites, and then I started to physically claw at the canvas, and it looked really, really good, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Um, and it turned into something that I was like really, really proud of, and that was the moment where I realized, oh, art's fun. um, and it was dollar store paints, dollar store brushes, and everything like that, because that was what he had on. And then I was like, I want canvas and I want to continue doing this. And so I ended up getting more canvas and painting, and I made a sister painting to that.
Okay.
That one's called 3 months later, where the blacks have now become grays.
Okay.
It's a lot brighter, and it's a lot more it has a lot more life to it too. 3 months later, after therapy and group therapy and medications and RTMS treatments, like you can see the difference.
Yeah,
Right?
and I see the progress more than anything else.
Yeah. And I was like, and I started to really have fun with it. And a lot of what I was doing originally was just paint. I stuck with that was painting a feeling.
Okay.
Because that was kind of what I knew and what I could do. Um, and now that I was like, I like canvas, but I don't have the energy for it all the time.
Right.
Right. And so pixel art, I was like, I like pixels. I like doing pixel stuff. And so I started into pixel, and I would like to say that also the pixel art started in tandem with becoming a VTuber, because I just couldn't afford, paying people for overlays and things like that. So I was like, I'm
Fair.
just going to do it myself. And so I started doing pixel art in order to kind of make my own stuff. So like actually, you know what? The background that you see in the interview, I made that.
I was not surprised by that, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, granted, I will say this: I followed an instructional video on how to do this,
Right.
and it was the basics on, like, doing shape and form, and how to play with how to do pixels and stuff like that, and like how to, like, the quote unquote rules of pixel art, right?
Right.
And I've stuck with it more. I mean, this, and I with the new thing that I made for when I get 10 subs in a day, I go to Otter Space. I made this for the background, and so, like, you can see how much I've changed when it comes to pixel art. Right?
Right. No, absolutely. Yes, the Otter Space.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a gorgeous one. I'm sorry. I absolutely love your pixel art. Like, it's seriously like some of the masterpieces. I think I've told you this before, but the one that you have of like the starry night in like the canyon or in the mountains or something like that, that is literally my laptop background. Like, every time I open my laptop, that's the first thing I see.
Oh, that might have been my Arden Wheel piece. Hang on. Because I did a bunch of, like, World of Warcraft ones too, because Shadowlands is really, really pretty.
Right.
And I was like, I want this one, right?
Yes, that one exactly.
Yeah, that is Arden Wield in World of Warcraft Shadowlands.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. No, it's one I was like, I didn't know. I just knew that it looked absolutely stunning.
Yeah. I mean, I liked it too, because I love painting blues and shades of blue and whites and blacks and stuff like that. So this was, like, really, really fun for me. And I mean, this was also, like, at the very, very edge of, like, me, just painting feelings and wanting to get more structural stuff and do more physical stuff. So, like, and then the next piece I did was this one I just sent you here, which was a fallen down archway in Bastion in Shadowlands. This is probably my favorite piece, to be quite honest.
Oh, yeah, I can see why, especially some of the details that you got in that. Oh my god.
Yeah, and the best part too is that I've realized, like, oh, I've been doing pixel art, and pixel art has really helped me with understanding light and shadows, and I'm happy to say that it's also translated into my actual paintings as well. This is the most recent painting I did. It was a gift from my mom, where I painted her show horse back, like, years ago. It's like it's I'm proud of it. There's definitely some, like, issues with it, but I am so goddamn proud of it. It is the best that I've done as far as, like, painting something. Like, that's the first time I've physically painted something that's alive.
Right.
Like, I did a lot of, like, I got obsessed with skulls and different types of skulls for about a little bit while I was painting.
Right.
Mostly because skulls are just interesting to paint as far as shadows go.
That's fair.
But like this is like the first thing that like I was like this is definitely living and things like that. But the other thing I also really like to paint too is galaxies. And this was another piece that I did recently that I had a lot of fun with too.
Let's see this beautiful. Oh yes, I think I remember whenever you first shared that or something like that. Like, oh my god, the cosmic deer more than anything else, or cosmic elk.
The cosmic deer. I painted the cosmic deer, and that was I really really like the concept of like painting. I also just as a person I really enjoy, that like I don't know how to explain it. Like it's this like it's a super massive towering object off in the distance.
Right.
It fills me with a sense of awe in the original sense.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I remember like the first time I felt that was playing Fable 2, and there was a tower that was being built throughout the entire game, and just seeing it off in the distance, just towering into the sky, I was like, oh, that's a cool thing. I like that. I want to do more of that. So I just like painting big things.
I was gonna say, you said that, and honestly, the first game to come to mind for me is Journey. If you remember that game, just the giant mountain in the background with the light beaming off the top of it, like
Or Shadow of the Colossus.
Yes, that's another good one. That's a great example of that more than anything else.
Yeah, absolutely.
But nevertheless, like it's incredible, kind of like you said, just having that like love for art and pixel art, especially like really coming to your life and really becoming like a great hobby. Because again, like I said, like if people can't see it from your background in the video version or whatnot, like, and the examples I posted throughout the video and whatnot, like you really got like a gift for it for someone that's really like picked it up only like as of late.
I mean, I would probably say it's been 3 years.
That's
is that not much?
That's still fairly recent, honestly. Like considering the fact that like like especially the past 3 years. For God's sakes, for the past 3 years alone, at least 2 of them have been a pandemic. I mean,
So, yeah, that's true. And I mean, I don't know. I really enjoy. Like, it's kind of like, I don't know. I'm starting to find my form, you know.
Good.
Things that I like, and I have painters that I'm inspired by, and I like those a lot of what they do, and I really like modern art. I like modern art's like one of the big things I like. And contemporary art. That's the other one I like too.
There we go. That's fair. And that's very fair. And I can certainly see some of those influences in some of the art. And I love how it also kind of goes hand in hand with another one of your hobbies that we kind of teased about, but we might as well go all in because I've been talking to an otter this entire time. Vtubing. What exactly got you interested in that in the first place, and what made you want to dive headfirst into that medium?
I had time.
Okay. That's a good start.
Okay, so I started working from home because I couldn't go into the office because game dev studios are notorious for just everyone getting sick all the time anyways. So right. I'm pretty sure if any of us have got COVID, we would all be dead. Trying to add gallows humor, right?
Yeah.
But like I had the time, and at the time I had my best friend introduced me to HoloLive.
Okay.
And God, I can't remember her name, but the Elite Gamer. there's a couple HoloLive girls that I was introduced to. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then HoloLive EN happened, and I went, it's happening here. And part of that was because Coco, made that happen, right?
Right.
And it was I was like, oh, this is cool. And then I found Nianners. And then I found VShojo, and then I found Zentrea, and then I found out that someone I've been following for a long time also had a VTuber model, which was Casey Explosion.
Okay.
Yeah, and she's got the sloth, and also the cow that she swaps between, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then I found Chester, who you got in the background there, yeah. And you also had on the show.
Yes, I did.
Which also was like, and straight up was the reason why I was like, can I be on your show?
I'll say,
I need to be the second otter on your show.
I'll say, to be fair, I was very surprised that I got them on the podcast, but it was also cool because like I told them about it, and it's like, yeah, I've never been asked to be on a podcast before. I'm like, really?
Yeah, I mean, I did watch that interview, and it was really cool just listening to Chris kind of just talk about their experiences and stuff. Like, oh, it's really interesting.
Yes.
And like I literally was like, if Chester can do it, if Chris can do it, I can do it too. And so I ended up and I was like, I reached out to the artist that did Casey's models, Crobo. And I was like, hey, I really, really like your style. I really like what you did for Casey. Can I commission you? And Crobo was like, no, I'll do it for free.
Oh, wow.
I was like, are you I begged them to pay them.
No.
And they're like,
I'm the same way whenever I ask people, like there's been a couple people that have done thumbnails for this podcast, like that I've had on as guests or whatnot, and like after the interview I usually like to ask, hey, is it okay if I commission you to do the thumbnail? I'm like, I'll just do it for free. I'm like, are you 100% sure? I really do not mind, okay? Like that that is a mentality that I've always had. People need to be compensated for the incredible art that they do and the time that they are using to make that.
yes. Yeah. And I was like, are you sure? Are you really sure? Are you triple sure? They're like, yeah, no, I'm just, you'll see it soon. And then I started this whole process April of last year. And so that was when I started the Twitter account. And then I got the model in May. They're like, hey, it's all done. It works. Here's what it looks like. Do you have any suggestions? Like, originally I was gonna be wearing like this like necklace with like with a little that like ring that you put out to see on like sailboats, that like white and red like sail the
yeah, the
donut,
the life preserver.
Yeah, thank you, life preserver. And I was like, can I have a bandana instead? And they're like, yeah, sure. And so that's how I got the bandana.
Nice.
And
I meant to look for a blue bandana beforehand. I apologize.
Holy shit, is that Tagg the Otter? But yeah, and then June 3rd was my very, very first stream, and that was when I quote unquote debuted. I just kind of started streaming that. I got everything that I needed in place.
Yep.
And it has been a year. I have grown pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, like I say quickly because quicker than I ever thought.
There you go.
And honestly, like I put a lot of work into this, and I realized how much work this is.
Yeah. There's a lot of work that goes into streaming in general.
Granted, I never assumed this was easy.
Right.
I was like, I just never knew how difficult it was and how much time you put into this behind the scenes. Because like I had this conversation with Duper the other day. I was like, I feel like I should be doing more, and he was like, you're putting time behind the scenes a lot too, right? And I was like, oh yeah, you're right. Like all the shit posts that I make and all the tweets that I make, all the editing that I do, like the time that I was trying to do TikTok stuff and the stuff you saw me doing last night.
Yep.
It's like it's like oh my god, I didn't realize how much time I was putting into stuff.
I was gonna say,
and
like,
how much more time I need to put into stuff.
Just like again, you and I are friends and we've known each other for a good bit. I see like the time and effort you put into some of this stuff. Like your shit posts are some of the top tier like shit posts I've seen out there, and I love every single new one that you post. Like the thing you were doing last night, and like even beforehand when it came to that Fortnite stream that you did, that was now your stinger video that you put with it. There's a lot of time and effort that goes into.
Yeah, Fortnite, bro. Yeah, I'm a Fortnite streamer.
This podcast is now sponsored by DOS Toss.
Brought to you by DOS Toss. If you can't get the DOS, do the DOS Toss.
No, but like even then, like the time and effort that goes into like some of that stuff or whatnot, just in general, like I see you definitely put in the hours more than anything else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and part of me is afraid that I'm forgetting that I also work at.
I think the previous, like, I don't know, 45 minutes or hour or so conversation that we had beforehand, I think that says otherwise. I think you remember.
Yeah. I mean, like, the other part, too, is that, like, when I was working as a release and build specialist, I was not that busy. Yeah. It was either, like, the way that game dev has been for me is that you're either not busy and bored out of your mind, which I'm actually glad now that I'm just at home.
Yep.
Or there are deadlines to be met 30 minutes ago, and there are like 8 different things that have come in last minute that need to be done at this very second.
Sounds about right.
That's game dev. And that was, and I mean, like that was working on as a release and build specialist. And now that I'm a technical writer, it's a little more consistent. I'm constantly busy, and it's kind of nice that I'm constantly busy, but I also find that it's like, okay, I've got some time between things. And I mean, I don't work when I'm on the clock, right? So like, I'm like, okay, I'm on my lunch break. All right, I have Vtubing shit I need to do. I have content I need to create for my own personal channel.
Right.
And I mean, that was the thing too, is that this was just like a hobby that I started as a secondary thing. I never really expected to make money off of this, but granted, the money is helping.
Yeah.
It's not the priority, but it's nice, especially when I got bills to pay.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, like, game dev pays, but it doesn't pay well. Like, I'm not rolling in dough here.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I imagine like whatever little bit helps, especially with the time and effort you put into VTubing or whatnot. Like, I imagine it has to do nothing but help at this point, right?
Yep. And most of what I do get has either gone back into my streams and paid for things like my starting soon screen, my BRB screen, my stream ending screen, or just help pay rent. Like those are the two big things. I either put it back into VTubing or it pays my rent.
That's smart. I mean, it should be going into that kind of stuff. But
yeah,
thinking about like just kind of the journey you kind of been on when it comes to VTubing or whatnot, do you have a particular like moment or a particular stream that you personally remember like very fondly of? Like, if nothing else, like you were to showcase it to a person, like, this is, if you want to know what I am as a VTuber, this is the moment or this is the stream you need to go to.
Oh God, I there's been like a few of those, because someone, I don't remember who it was, but they described me as cursed wholesome. And I think that, there's so many good moments, and one of them isn't even on my own stream. It was on T Roofle's stream.
Okay.
The soy sauce incident.
Oh no, I didn't know if we were gonna talk about it or not.
Oh no, we're not gonna talk about it, because
Good.
if you know what the soy, if you know, you know.
If you know, you know.
That's
all you need to know. If you know, you know.
But I think that recently was also my maidenless stream.
Yes.
Of Elden Ring. Which was a lot of fun. Granted, like you literally can't beat the game maidenless. I tried. I had to break the game to get into Lendell City with a rung warp, which, by the way, is apparently really fucking easy to pull off. But like, that was probably like a good moment, and that was a good time that I had with that. The Jump King streams, the Getting Over It stream, my birthday stream. Those were, I mean, the birthday stream was just everyone coming in clutch, because that was, I could not have pulled that off without people like Rocco and Sam and Beck being there, and Uji, like all of these people that were there to just make it happen. Those are the reasons why my streams, those are probably the best reasons why those streams are good, is because everything I've done has involved other people. Even with the maidenless stream, I brought Wukiki and Goliath in, and we had fun just like summoning in and making anime jokes about how much Morgott was a fucking weeb.
I was gonna say, I'm glad you brought the birthday stream like super quickly, because I still am fucking warped by, what was it, the 6 inches of bliss or whatnot, the stories that you told on that stream.
So there's a story behind 6 inches of bliss and a moment with a burger.
With a burger.
Two, and there was a third story I wrote recently called Johnny Eats a Pickle.
I probably have Johnny Jelly Jaw on a later.
Yeah, it was for Johnny's birthday. Nier approached me, was like, "Hey, how much is it going to cost you to write a story?" And I was like, "I'm already on it."
I'm scared to know the stories behind the stories. Jesus Christ, Lord help us.
Which also kind of leads into, I'm also a writer,
right?
I mean, I wouldn't be a writer. I wouldn't be a technical writer if I wasn't a writer.
Right.
But yeah, the A Moment with a Burger and the 6 inches of bliss started because it was NaNoWriMo, and I was doing this short story challenge, and I was like, okay, I need a object, a place, and a genre. And there was a Discord server I was in at the time, and I was like, hey, I need these 3 things, and someone said, Big Mac, McDonald's, romance.
That's all we need
And
to
that
say.
was how, and that was how a moment with a burger started. And I was like, you know what? I don't like. He's not gonna fuck the burger. Like that's not gonna happen.
We're not getting.
I'm gonna make this funny.
We're not getting a McChicken incident, okay?
No, we're not having a McChicken incident. We're not gonna make we're not making a McNut sandwich. No, that's not what we're doing. Yeah, this is why people say I'm cursed wholesome. Is I just we really can just say shit, can't we?
Yeah, we can.
And that was how that story started, and I was like, this is fun. And then I ended up writing 6 Inches of Bliss for a zine that never happened. A zine?
I say zine because I think of it like magazine.
Yeah. That's probably the best way to put it. Yeah, so it was for a zine that just never happened because we were writing quote unquote food porn. It was not food porn. It was just like a love letter to food,
right.
But it was supposed to be funny. Which, like, you laughing at a moment with a burger and 6 Inches of Bliss is exactly the experience I wanted.
Oh, there you go. You certainly accomplished that and then some. And I was going to say, speaking of food, I know one of the more recent streams that was very memorable for me is you doing food crimes. I cannot believe just kind of the stuff that you talked about with that one, which leads me to a very important moment that I'm going to regret. I don't know if you remember, but you said if you were to come on to this podcast, there is a certain food crime that I have to defend.
Yeah. Oh, there it is.
1 second.
There it is. Salsa and Oreos. Oh, that was the second worst one.
No, that's the okay. For those that are curious what we're talking about, all right, there was a food crime.
Okay, fucking show your work.
Okay, here's the thing. When it comes to some of the food crimes on there, I am not going to say that is the worst. I am not also saying that this is not a food crime, what I'm about to do. This is definitely a food crime. But, like, you were putting that basically on the same level as banana pizza with bubblegum sauce. And I was there to say, look, I understand that that one is horrible, but it is not on the same level or even close to that level. I understand the concept that this could bring with a sweet and spicy sort of mix to it. And, like, replacing a chip with a cookie. I get some of it. I'm still saying it's like a 3.5 or a 4 on a scale of 1 to 5 when it comes to food crimes. But I'm not saying it is the worst food crime that is out there. That is all I'm trying to say.
I hope that you realize this is a mistake the moment that it hits your tongue. Dude, I hope that you're gonna be like, I can't back out, and I now have to wear my big boy pants and not piss myself publicly.
You realize that Oreos and salsa, like the instant I agreed to it, I was regretting it. Okay, like
good. You should. You can back out. I'm not gonna.
No,
I'm gonna judge you. I call you a coward.
I bought the Oreos and I bought the salsa. I'm committing to this.
Enjoy them separately, you fucking clod.
Oh Jesus Christ! I'm gonna regret this, but you know what? I committed to something.
I'm literally watching. I have to call the FBI.
All right, there it is, folks. One second, I'll make sure to get close to the camera.
No. Get more on there. You gotta dunk that shit like it's a nacho. You gotta go right to the fingers, my dude.
I was gonna say, time out. How do you enjoy your nachos? Jesus Christ.
Oh, I eat a nacho and then lick whatever's left on my fingies.
This is a good chunk right here. Okay, I'm saying this is a good chunk, and I will make sure that
all right.
I'm going to not bite the whole entire thing. Like I will have it to where it's like a half bite as it is. So I'm making sure that the like ratio is good.
No. You gotta put the whole thing in your mouth.
I gotta put the whole thing. Then fine, I'll get a little bit more to make sure that the whole thing goes in my mouth.
That's why I'm saying you go right. You gotta get the fingies wet.
That's good. Come on, that's good.
Yeah, exactly. That's how you eat a nacho, but it's with an Oreo.
May God have mercy on my soul.
Because I won't.
Because you won't.
Oh.
Okay.
If you say it's good, I'm gonna slash your tires.
It's not good. That's the first thing I'll say.
But there's a but there. I can hear it.
I'll say that being said, like what was happening is like the salsa just really hit, and then like the cookie more or less took over and took most of that profile or whatnot. And now there's like just a slightly weird combination to where honestly, and this is, you might slash my tires for me saying this, I would actually bring that score down just a little bit when it comes to food crimes. This is not as bad as I thought it was going to be. It's still up there, but it's
not slashing your tires. I'm not going to slash your tires. I'm just going to put tax fraud in your name now.
Put tax fraud. You know what? I can accept that. Honestly, I thought I was going to gag. And honestly, like if you were to tell me, hey, take another one, I will probably take that challenge because honestly, it is not as bad.
I can't believe you. I can't believe you. You disgust me.
You know, hey, say what you want. I am a man of my word. And that is the one thing you gotta respect.
No, okay, no, hang on. I just realized I can't. I have to commend you because that was the same reason for the soy sauce. You followed through. You followed through. You proved a point, and now other people don't have to do it.
Like I said, honestly, like it also probably didn't help that I have mild salsa. Like it probably should have gotten something a little spicier or whatnot. But still, like even then, like the texture alone is not great.
Is it okay? If it, I don't know. Can we say brands on here? Actually,
this is Toss Toss. How about that?
Okay, yeah, okay. I was about to say if it's like Toss, that's probably it. Like that's what I was expecting you to dunk a cookie into.
Right, and like I said, like if I was told to eat that, if someone dared me to eat that again, okay, I'll take the challenge. I'm not going to go out of my way and eat that stuff, but at the same time, the experience as a whole was not as bad as I was
not
anticipating.
as bad as you thought. Yeah,
not as bad as I was.
Yeah, that makes sense.
However, if you tell me to eat a banana pizza with bubblegum sauce, I will murder you on the spot. In game.
Yeah, I would too. In a video game, obviously. I mean, you can't. I'm an otter in a video game.
Exactly. Which actually leads me back to a question I meant to ask sooner. And do you mind if I break the immersion for like 2 seconds when asking this next question?
Go right ahead.
I
don't follow the immersion anyways.
I was going to say, why did you decide to go with the otter to represent you?
It's literally just I like otters.
Okay,
that's
fair.
Literally it. So like, because a lot of people ask me like, "Are you a furry?" I'm like, "No, not really." Like, there would probably be a parallel universe where I would be a furry, you know. But I mean, I don't participate in furry stuff. I don't have a fursuit. Like, I don't do furry art, things like that. You know, like I'm not in that space, right?
Right.
But I actually just really like otters. Otters are my favorite animal, which I guess is which is like that's probably enough to be like, oh, he's a furry. I'm like, no, I'm not really, no. And I mean, like I also kind of realized as well recently, like why I chose to look like why I wanted my design to look like this and not like a humanoid furry that you would see in an Orangina commercial.
Right.
Like, and it was because I kind of had this realization about an incident that happened back in 2016. I was like, which I don't know if I really want to get into here because I don't.
That's fair.
It's content warning, trigger warning. You know, just fair enough. Like I didn't warn you about it beforehand, so I'm not going to talk about it.
Right.
But I was like, oh, this is probably why I look like this, you know, and why I chose to want to be like this because it was just like I wanted to be an otter, and it's, you know, it turns away the eyes of people that go, oh, you're like that one the dude that came into my stream the other like a while, like when I first started and called me a bottom, like. And like, there's jokes that have come out of this because I like those, like the otter space joke,
right?
You know, like that's good. I like that. That's funny. I've done that with friends, you know. But it's like I just want to be an otter. That's literally it. I just really like otters, and I feel really fucking bad about this because I've been wanting to do a charity stream for the International Otter Survival Fund, and actually Otter Day is coming up here. It's this month.
Oh, there you go.
In fact, I think it actually went by already.
Maybe. Either way, like, hey, helping out a charity, it shouldn't matter if it lands on a certain day or not.
I agree. Actually, hang on, I have to check. 26th of May is International Otter Day.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was when I wanted to actually do the stream, but I've gotten so busy and I don't have the time for it, unfortunately.
Fair.
Because I wanted to do it back in February, but then you know, things happened.
Yeah.
And
life happens.
And yeah, life happened 5 times for me this year. In less than a year. Fuck.
I get that. I totally get that.
Yeah. So I mean, that's like like I said, like I'm constantly busy and having, you know, a full-time game dev job. It's a lot, you know.
Yes. It's a lot.
Yeah, but that's literally it. I just wanted to be an otter, and I like being a wiggly little dude.
Yeah.
That's literally it. But with that being said, I'm open to the idea of a redesign, which Teal, which is Tytophy on Twitter, was like, hey, do you want a reference sheet for like Tagg 2.0? And I was like, yeah, sure. How much does it cost? And she's like, it's free. And I went, oh, you can't do this to me again. Please, I beg you, let me pay you.
Please, I beg of you.
But no. She was like, no, I'll do it for free. So it's gonna be an opportunity for me to do a redesign and probably get lean more towards humanoid.
Right.
I have another friend that's like, hey, I can get you a severe discount on making like a humanoid tag, like a humanoid otter hot tag. And I was like, all right, you know what? 2022, you're the thoughter. Let's go.
You're the thoughter, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I can't take credit for that. There is another otter VTuber that also goes by that name. So
Okay. I was gonna say, because if not, I was debating on making that the title of this podcast. He's gonna be that or Soy Boys. That was the thing.
Soy Boys. Soy Boys works. I like Soy Boys.
That's what I was thinking. And for people, if they know,
Journey to the Outer Space.
Journey to the Outer Space. There we go. I'll cross that bridge when I get to it.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, like, it's incredible. Like I said, the journey you've been able to go on, and like, especially through all this like stuff, you know, when it comes to your origin story, like I said, when it comes to video games, to really like being all in when it comes to VTubing stuff, and like the community you've built up around like you as a VTuber and whatnot. Does it amaze you kind of the love and support you've kind of gotten on this journey?
Every day. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've said a couple times that there are definitely a few people that I've met doing this that I could walk away from VTubing tomorrow and feel like I gained something out of it. You know, like there's been a few people that I've met. I mean, Rocco Farin, probably the biggest one.
Oh, major one.
Yeah, him and I are fucking two peas in a pot. And Jet as well has been super fantastic, you know. And everyone that's kind of been in Rocco's sphere, Uji as well.
Yes.
Has also been I'm gonna, you know what the problem, you know what, I gotta be careful because I'm gonna name names and I'm gonna forget someone and I'm gonna feel so fucking bad.
Just I'll say I'll put this blanket statement for those that are not named. Don't think you're not being considered. There's just
I beg you, I'm stupid. You know, and like and with that being said, like there has been people that have inspired me that I've also got to meet. Like Johnny Jellyjaw and Duper.
Yes,
those are some of the big ones. Poppy as well. Yeah. You know, I've had a chance to chat with them and just vibe. Like, yeah, they inspire me, but at the same time, they're also people, right? Like,
right.
I think that the other thing too, what I've really enjoyed about being a VTuber is it's really helped me deal with like this, like not being starstruck when you meet someone.
Right.
With that being said, there are probably people that if I were to meet, I would still be like, oh my god, it's my god, it's fucking Zentreya. What the fuck? I'm talking to Zentreya. Like that, I will probably still lose my shit, but it's definitely less after, you know, being a VTuber and being a public figure too. I'm sorry, no, not a public figure, a niche micro celebrity.
So as a VTuber,
yeah, me sipping just from my bottle of soy sauce. You know, as a VTuber,
not the soy sauce, anything but the soy sauce.
You know what? I gotta reference it as much as possible. Speaking of which, did you know that I made a 3D model of a soy sauce bottle you can throw at me?
I know. I've thrown it to you several times.
I'm very proud of that work, actually.
You should be. I was gonna say, plus, little side, whenever I get the thumbnail done, because I was thinking of either asking you or Miss Dance-A-Lot, obviously.
Ask Miss Dance-A-Lot.
Ask Miss Dance-A-Lot, got it. But one of the things I was gonna ask is, like, for the microphones, have yours be replaced with a soy sauce bottle, as I'm like you're talking.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Miss Dance-A-Lot has been the backbone of my streams as well. You know, she has she's been the one that did everything for the starting soon screen, the be right back screen, the stream ending screen, and they are slated to also do a bunch of other stuff for me.
Nice.
So, like, I want to do a bunch of other alerts because there was a point where I saw the starting soon screen and I was talking to them. And I was like, oh, I like the design that they did.
Yeah.
A lot. Because they put they made me look like a goofy little guy, which is, I like looking like a goofy little guy. And they gave me a little hair floof. And ever since then, I'm just like, I've added that to any attempt that I've tried to like when I was trying to make Tagg 64, I added a little hair floof. I was like, that's cool. I like that. And Yeah, I mean, I plan to pay Miss Dance a lot for more stuff because they're just fantastic. I love their work. In
Absolutely.
fact, like you know what, probably should have asked them first, but I have on my YouTube channel that I started, I have the art that they did of me recently, where they made me look super adorable and with a puffy face.
Oh,
Like that's yeah. So I have that as my YouTube channel, banner and profile picture.
there we go. I mean, it's incredible, like especially seeing how enthusiastic that they are for your art, just like for what you do, and especially for like you said, everyone within this community. Like I was getting back to it, like it's incredible, kind of the people that you've developed like good friendships and relationships with, and like it's
Yeah.
incredible, like it's incredible how far you've been able to come so far, like whether it's by your own merits or with the help of everyone, because honestly, like it's incredible just seeing where you are right now. It's incredible the stuff you've been able to produce, and it's been incredible to see what you've been able to do, long and short of it.
Thank you. Actually, I think everything that I've done has had someone's hand in it at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think of like the stinger that I made. Spiral was like, here's a little quick like 3 second thing that I made that you can add in, just add a little more oomph. And so, last night working on the shortening of one of my streams, Spiral's like, here, add this sound, and it will just make it hit. And the thing that they helped me with is so much fucking better because they added that in and they gave me that idea, right?
Right.
Like it's the like I know that like VTubing it's around like a single person, but I don't do this alone even
Right.
still, right?
Right.
Which
Absolutely.
it's great. I like knowing that like I have people that here to support me,
Mm-hmm.
and there's still the anxiety of like, oh my god, no one's gonna show up, and then people do, and I'm like, oh, okay, I was literally not, I didn't have to be afraid at all when, but it's literally every stream.
Right, right. I mean,
Hmm.
going like it's incredible. Like I said, a million times over, again and again. I will probably constantly say it's incredible the journey you've been on. It's incredible what you've been able to do, and I imagine it's something that hopefully won't slow down anytime soon. In fact, I'm
Yeah.
hoping that it might speed up into what I'm going to give you right now, the dream scenario. Let's say I am Big Shot Mr. Moneybags. I come up to you, I'm like, look, Tag, you adorable little fellow right there. I we
Little
know
dude, little guy.
little dude, little guy. We know that you have the ability to create some absolutely incredible stuff if given the opportunity. We want to help support that for you. We have access to anyone and everyone in any sort of art medium field or whatnot, and more money than there should be possible. We could probably pay for like so many like new studios and more opportunities for people, but we'll focus on that later. Right now, we're focusing on you. If given this opportunity, what would be the dream Tag the Otter project?
Oh no, I never thought about this.
I
Because
mean,
like V2 for me is like day to day. Like fuck, what am I gonna do tomorrow? Like that's it. I gotta just think about what I'm doing
I was
tomorrow.
I was gonna say I think the one thing that you talked about earlier that I think would be a good start more than anything else is your own independent game studio.
Yeah, but that I don't know if it's really related to VTubing, right? But yeah, I
Eh,
mean that would be it, right? Like I would, I'm because like if this was like VTubing specifically,
mhm.
it would be like I would love to be able to create content uh easier, like
Fair,
be like that like the video you saw me working on. I was literally working on that
right?
all day. And it was going through a 6 hour stream, cutting it down to 20 minutes, and then adding in all the edits, and then cut it down to 10 minutes. Like, if I had, like, if I was like, I'll pay you to do this, that would be the dream. Um, and like, I think that it would also be just like, I don't know, because like, this, because the reason I'm thinking is like, like, if I was given monetary, backing to do this, it would imply like to me it feels like it implies that monetary gain needs to be made out of it to make back that investment, right? And I don't know because like
Okay, okay, fine. I'll say
I
take the monetary
yeah,
aspect out of it. Then just
yeah.
if given the ability to do whatever you want, what would be basically the dream project for you? Like, what would be the ultimate dream, like end goal? I guess would be
Oh God.
whether it be
I
VTubing or with video games, whatever you consider for this one. This is your dream. Live it.
Yeah. Okay. If it was video, like I think because this VTubing thing is like because VTubing for me is fun.
Right.
I grow like the fact that I'm growing is just like a bonus to me. It's not something I dream about doing. I don't dream about being a VTuber.
It's
You
a
know,
positive, but it's not like the definitive motivation.
Exactly. But like, I feel like what I would want is more in towards the video game style of things. Like, I would want to. Oh wait, no, I could marry the two. I would love
Ooh.
to do like a D&D podcast. You know,
Oh,
because
okay.
you know I'm a big fan of like the Adventure Zone, the I'm a big fan of the McElroy brothers and Adventure
Hmm.
Zone and all of that. Like, I would love to be able to tell stories. Like, if someone was like, if I'm gonna fund you, what would you do with it? Like, just pay me to tell stories. Pay me to tell stories.
There you go. That's fair.
Yeah.
That's good. That's a good
Took me a
thing to
while to
start.
get there, but I finally got there.
I was gonna say, hey, not gonna lie, if you want to just go ahead and do it, and you need someone to like edit a podcast, hey, I got a podcast. I'm more than willing to edit some stuff together and pull some strings. And let's do. I have been dying to do like a D&D campaign because I was like a part of one that never got completed like years ago, and we only did like I want to say like 3 or 4 sessions or whatnot, and then it just kind of met or whatnot. But like with today's technology, with what we're able to do, it might not be as cool, but like at least for like a first season or something like that, I'm down for some shit like that.
Yeah, and I mean that was the thing is I took a big break from D&D because there was a group that I was in for about 2 years, and we were telling some great stories,
Mm-hmm.
and then unfortunately we lost a friend back last year about almost a year ago now actually. Damn. And I was like I can't do this anymore. I'm
Right.
sorry.
That's
I got to
fair.
drop out.
That's fair.
And it sucks because I really enjoyed that story, and there was also a D&D story that I was telling for 3 years.
Goodness.
Yeah, and that wrapped up last year as well, and I was like, I need to take a break,
Yeah.
and which is fine. I
Yeah.
mean, cool breaks are pretty awesome in poggers, but like that doesn't mean I haven't been working on stuff. Like I am playing D&D right now with some close friends. It's very low key, small, of like 4 people because that's all I
Yeah.
can handle.
That's fair. That's
And
honestly fair.
yeah, and I mean I've been working on the story. Like I said, I was taking a break, and then immediately I'm already writing another story. But I've also gone way more in depth with this one because the first story I told was a story called The World of Zer,
Okay.
which it was a story about these green tablet pieces that they had to go find, and when they got put all together, like this thing happened, and it would wake up the horror. They called them terrors. They were these like impossibly large creatures that were sleeping around the world, and they were all like chained down in place, and these single individual pieces of the larger tablet had the ability to wake them all up. Because what I was playing with was the idea of larger and larger infinities.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you also don't know this, I'm a fucking math weenie. Yeah. And the concept of larger and larger infinities was really fucking cool to me because I mean infinity already is like a insurmountable number, but there are bigger infinities because you would look at sets of infinity,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's a really good video that I'll send you afterwards that you can watch on the concept of larger infinities.
All right. Fair
Um,
enough.
and I mean the other part too is I was doing what's called linear algebra in university. In addition, so like when I was going to school for chemistry, I was also getting a minor in advanced calculus.
Jesus Christ.
So like,
Where where is your life?
Not to toot my own horn, but I'm kind of smart.
Really? I did not take.
I'm smart, but I'm really fucking
You-
stupid.
I was gonna say you're certainly the smartest otter I know. So there you go.
Yeah, I'm the smartest otter you know. I'm the smartest otter anyone knows.
No
I'm
disrespect
also
to no disrespect to Chester. No disrespect to Chester.
No, he's got he's got himbo energy. I'll give him that.
Hey.
He can have that.
They got himbo energy, that's for sure.
Yeah. Oh, wait. Sorry. I need to clarify. Is when referring to Chris, it's they them, but when referring to Chester's, it's still they them.
I don't know. I just do it as they them just to be like say. I like that's just like my de facto like.
You know what? Yeah, fair, understandable, fair enough. I should probably refer to they them for both instead. Yeah.
I say at the very least that we can either say himbo or thembo. Either way.
Yeah, thembo. Yeah, I'll be the himbo. They could be the thembo.
There you go. Either way.
Actually, sorry. I keep having you go like, okay, coming back. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No.
I got a lot of things to talk about.
Trust me whenever I say I love this kind of podcast, and I've been loving the tangents you've been going on the entire fucking time. Okay, this is the
Okay,
podcast
thank you.
I crave. You're good.
Okay, good. I'm glad. Oh god, what were we talking about originally?
You were talking about like the fact
telling
that
stories. Yes,
well, I was
yes.
not only telling stories, but the last thing we were on before you decided to go off on that little tangent right there was the fact that while you were studying for chemistry, you were getting a minor in advanced calculus.
Yes, and linear algebra.
Linear algebra.
And the reason I was talking about greater, like larger sets of infinities, is because when you work with when you work in sets of equations and you work in when you work with linear algebra, you're working in sets of equations, and you can actually, if you have an infinite set of equations that go in the infinite x direction and the infinite y direction, you can still get a branch. Like if it was infinite in both directions, you can get a equation that does not exist in that set by taking every value diagonally.
Oh goodness.
Yeah. So like that's what I mean by greater sets of infinities, is that you have an infinite set, but you can still find infinite in infinite. And that was the reason, and that was the whole reason why I was like, I want to tell a story about greater infinities, which is why like these tiny shards of this infinitely powerful tablet still had infinite power.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like you could just do more. I mean, but that's the thing is like when it comes to, you know, concepts of infinity, it's hard to wrap your mind around. Here's a really, I'm gonna go on another tangent again.
Go for it.
Here's a really cool thing. Your brain is wired to instantly count to 3.
Really?
Yes. So if there is a group of something, your brain is able to instantly tell whether it is 1 of an object, 2 of an object, or 3 of an object. After that, it's 1 and 2 of an object, 2 and 3 of an object, 3 and 1 of an object. Like that's kind of how your brain kind of breaks it apart. That's only the limit of our brain. That's why like things like the difference between a million and a billion is so hard for us to wrap our minds around.
Yeah, you know what? You explained that, and it makes sense. I was also thinking, like, even with like some of the smaller numbers or whatnot, it's like, you know, it stops at 3, but it's like 4. Well, 4 is 2 2s. That's why I make that little connection right there or whatnot. So.
Yeah, but you can see that the processing power took twice as long because it's like, yeah, it's 2 2s.
Yep.
It's not 2, it's 2 2s.
Right.
or you know, it's 1 and 3, right?
Yeah.
And that's because. Yeah.
Or just
exactly.
1 1 1 1.
or 4 1s. And there was a book that I read on how cultures view the concept of the number 1 differently, based on what their culture like grew up with and what was important to their culture.
Right.
And this is also the reason why math is different in other places. So like, cause like, let me ask you this. This was actually something that my math professor was talking about, is when we talk about the concept of 1, throw numbers out of your mind. Let's assume that you don't know what counting is, right? Okay. And you're a farmer in the 8th century and you have cows and you got to make sure that you have the same cows that you had yesterday. How do you do that without counting?
I don't know. How?
Well, it's a bit of a trick question. I'll give you that. So what we'd actually do for the concept of counting is we would have rocks to represent the cows, right?
Right.
And so you'd have one cow, you put a rock beside that cow, and you go to the other cow, you put a rock beside that one. If you got a rock in your hand, guess what? You're missing a cow.
Right.
And that actually is what the basics of numbers and counting is numbers are a representation of something else, right? That's why we have this abstract idea of what the number 1 is. And and the reason why it's also built in culture is the reason why people have a bigger understanding of 1 or 0. Because, you know, in feudal China, where 1 grain of rice, you know, is nothing, but when you go into when you go to other cultures where they grow large crops and having like 1 giant pumpkin,
right,
you know, the concept of 1 changes.
That is true. That's very true. Goodness. You know,
yep.
I never thought I would be so enthralled with math on my art podcast.
That's right. It's an art podcast.
I was saying, to be fair, my April Fool's Day joke last year was I rebranded this podcast to the Postmodern Math Podcast. So.
Oh shit! Then I'm a month late.
I brought on a close friend of mine who like was supposed to be like an expert on pie, and yet the only thing they talked about was 20 pickle pie. But back to the original point when it comes to like the math stuff like that. That is all stuff that you would love to apply to your D&D campaigns, and honestly, the D&D campaign would be a cool dream scenario for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Being able to like, if someone said, "I'm going to pay you to just tell stories," I'd be like, "Cool, I'm out."
There you go.
I'm gonna do that.
It's a good thing to strive for more than anything else. I think that's just what a lot of creators of all sorts of different forms of art would love, just to be paid to tell their stories. I mean,
Yeah, and I mean that's the thing is like that's kind of like what everyone wants, right? Like that's also why being a writer in game dev is so hard because everyone has a story to tell. Everyone wants to tell a story.
right?
And so it's very very hard to get in at the on the ground floor of narrative
Yeah,
because you have to like narrative. They kind of just like they go with who they trust and they know that they're going to tell a good story. Then they can rather than trusting someone brand new.
exactly. I see what you, sorry, I see exactly what you're talking about. Yeah,
Yeah.
it,
It's sad, and I kind of wish that it was different, but I mean that's unfortunately the way the nature of the game, right?
for now. Hopefully it'll change
Hmm.
soon. But speaking of things that will hopefully change for soon, sadly we gotta come down from the dream scenario. We gotta get back to reality. You know, for you,
Yep.
the otter person that I am talking to, and I'll
Hmm.
ask the ever so generic question: where do you hope to see yourself 5 to 10 years from now?
Twice as big.
Okay,
Thought about this actually. Twice as big.
twice as big.
That's kind of always where I've kind of aimed is like a year from now I want to be twice as big.
Okay, okay.
So which in numbers would mean like I have 500 Twitch followers, 1,000 Twitch followers would be the goal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, being at over 1,000 on Twitter, and I guess 20 on YouTube. Yeah, like that's the thing is like I knowing that I can grow, and even and knowing that I can hit those numbers, and I know if I push hard enough, I probably could. Like I when I was in like in January to April, I did a push to 500, and I was 3 days late. So like that was, and I was like it was 200 subscribers in like, or like 200 followers in like 2 3 months.
I
I
mean,
was like I
that's
could
still
probably do
really
that.
good.
Yeah, and I pushed, and granted, I had a lot of help as well. You know, like I said, you never do anything alone doing this.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, so that was a huge help. And that made me feel really good. And I'm already like growing a little bit faster than that time that took me to 500. Like I'm already at 550, and like on Twitch, and you know, hopefully this other endeavor that I don't know how long it's gonna last. I want it to last
Right.
quite a while with the YouTube videos and stuff like that, but it's just a lot of time and effort, right?
No, exactly.
Um, yeah, but like that's the goal. Is just like twice as big.
You'll be twice as big. You'll go from a little otter to at least a medium otter.
Yeah, yeah. An Amazonian. I'll go from a North American river otter to an Amazonian river otter.
There you go. That's a good mentality to have. As we start to wind down the interview, I just have one last question I want to ask. Obviously, you've been deeply entrenched in art in one aspect for another. Like you grew up with like video games and art basically influencing where you are right now. How important is art not just for you but for the world as a whole?
Uh, art in oh god, how do I say this? Art dictates culture, and I think that culture also dictates art.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have the. This is a really hard question to answer.
That's why I saved
Because
for
like
last.
yeah, because I like art is yeah, art is directly influenced by culture, but culture is also directly influenced by art. I mean, like, because there's something that kind of stuck out is when you look at music specifically,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, look at what the hits were in relation to what uh, the current government was in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
There's a dude that I used to listen to back home. I can't. It was the history of modern music,
Okay.
and I can't remember what his name was, but like he talked about how like music got angrier during like Republican senates and Republican Republican presidents and things like that because there was a lot of bullshit going on, right?
Yeah.
And then things kind of mellow out during a democratic leadership, right? And that was kind of the one thing that kind of always kind of stuck with me is that it's kind of a it's not just a one-way street. They both influence each other.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I kind of that's also why like I think that making things that are you know that send a this is gonna sound really vague and kind of like maybe wishy-washy, but things that send a good message, or things that invoke good morality and ethics is super important. Not to say that we shouldn't explore stories of like of terrible things.
Right. Right.
I guess by like when I say terrible things, that leaves me wide open for like a lot more. But like I'm trying to think of a good example here. Like we should still talk about the hard stuff to talk about,
Right.
and like it shouldn't always be sunshine and rainbows. We need to have the hard conversations as well, and we need to have these conversations. But we also need to understand that like it's okay to also have these things that are representations of good times. Like we can have Stardew Valley, and we can also have Depression Quest,
Yeah.
right? Like we can have both of those at the exact same time. You know, we can have these conversations about accessibility in video games, and we can also have these conversations about why the new Mario game is very, very good. We can have these conversations about why trans rights matter and why they should be at the forefront of, the rights of minorities and things like that. But we can also have these stories that are celebrating that, and they're happy stories of trans characters. We can have both of those things,
Yeah.
and we should have both of those things.
Absolutely.
I think I really danced around it. It was a little vague about it, but
you were vague, but I still think you got the point across. Basically, and I'll try to TLDR this in a simple line, more or less. But it's one of those like, art is important because it is reflective of the culture, and both art and culture is a very diverse and unique topic to where you can tell multiple things through multiple mediums and all sorts of different stories, and it's still relevant no matter how it's said.
yes, and you can't just have one story.
Right.
With culture and media, it has to be open. Well, I mean, barring the very, very obvious things that you shouldn't like, that are clearly like intolerant, like no intolerance bullshit.
Exactly.
We have to be intolerant of intolerance. Mm-hmm. That's the obvious caveat of that's not accepted at all. But with that being said, like there are multiple stories that can be told, and I think that they should be told, and it's beautiful that we can. So long as it's not stomping on other people. I think that's the most important part.
That is very important, and I think your statement as a whole is very important. I appreciate you saying that, and that is wonderfully worded, if I do say so myself.
Thank you. That was hard for me. You really got me. You got me firing on all cylinders on that one.
Well, at least that lets me know I'm asking good questions.
Yeah.
That is all the questions I have for you, though. I have showered you with a whole bunch of praise throughout, but I'm going to shower you with a little bit more because it's my podcast. I do whatever the fuck I want. Look, Tagg, ever since I've gotten to know you, I have felt honored to even know you. Like, you're an incredible person that I'm glad that I have the pleasure of calling a friend. Your attitude and your mentality is incredible. The stuff that you bring to any sort of conversation is absolutely fascinating, and especially the way you present yourself. Like, I love and admire that about you. The fact that you're willing to basically just go all in with whatever you do and really like represent who you are, because you do a great job painting that picture more than anything else. Getting a chance to sit down and really talk to you and really get to know your story or whatnot, if whatever appreciation I already had for you is elevated infinitely, knowing kind of where you come from and what you've been able to do, what you're still able to do, what you're going to be doing. I've already been rooting alongside you as much as I can. I will do it for as long as I possibly can, because you are an incredible person, and I am thankful that you are willing to put yourself out there and be the true, wonderful otter pop that you are. Thank you for what you do. Keep up the incredible work. Just thank you.
Thank you. That means a lot. I try really hard to do what I do. I try hard to be a good person. I try hard to be a good ally. I try to be I try hard at a lot of things because it takes work to be a good person, but it's always worth it.
I was gonna say, if I say anything, sorry, yeah. Go on.
No, that was it. That was what I was gonna say.
I was gonna say, you say you try hard, but honestly, I feel like you're just naturally you out there, and I cannot think of a truer otter to be talking to right now and saying that.
You say that you literally had Chester.
Look, don't get me wrong. I love that conversation too. I'm not saying that it's like you're here and Chester's down here. I'd say it's more like it's neck and neck. Okay, like it was incredible. Nevertheless, to get to know, two otters to have on this podcast. I can't think of a podcast that has only one otter. So beat that other podcast.
Yeah, you're two ahead. My brother, and me doesn't have any otters on their show. What does that say? You're better than my brother, and me.
I was gonna say,
otters.
I was say, go fact yourself. Had episodes where they talked about otters, but they did not present any otters as the expert on that episode. Okay, so
yeah, you think that they could have asked me like, what's it like to be an otter? I would tell them, I just kind of vibe.
Well, until other podcasts have that opportunity to really showcase what other otters are out there, go ahead and plug yourself for the people at home. So if they're not already supporting you, they can now.
Okay. You can follow me on Twitter at Tagg the Otter. That's where I do most of my shit posting.
There you go.
It's also the best way to know when I go live on Twitch, which is twitch.tv/Tagg the Otter. I also have the YouTube channel that has literally just started today, where I'm going to be uploading just edits and short versions of my streams that are at least worth it, which is also just Tagg the Otter. I really cornered the market on Tagg the Otter, didn't I?
Good. That's good branding more than anything else.
Yeah. When you get everything kind of lined up nicely like that, it's fantastic. But yeah, those are the places. Twitch, Twitter, YouTube. I think that's it. I think that's it. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Do you have any final words before we sign off?
Jungle up a hot bungo dumpus. I don't know.
You said that with no hesitation. I appreciate that.
That is just because I have silly just one brain cell, but honestly, trans rights, baby, that's it.
There you go, trans rights. And with that, all I have left to say is for the people at home, hasta luego, mi amigos.
Bye-bye.
Tell me what's wrong, tell me sparks in motion. Sing me a song, tell me your eyes can all open. Show me it all, pick me up in the car you drove when you used to call. Show me it all.
Thank you for sticking around to the end. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, I greatly do appreciate it. This was a fun episode. This was an episode that me and Tagg have been wanting to do for a while. Life just kind of got a little hectic and I didn't do it a little sooner. But I'm glad I was able to do it one way or another. I am not glad that I had to do the salsa and Oreo, but that's aside from the point. That being said, I will be honest. If I am told I have to do it again, I would not mind. I am not going to be pining for it. I am not going to go out of my way to enjoy myself some salsa-covered Oreos. But if I am told for like a charity or for a day or something like that, I'll do it. It's not that bad. But this episode isn't solely about salsa and Oreos and blah, 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 blah. This is about an incredible artist doing incredible stuff, like every single episode of the podcast. I think it's also important to point out that with this episode, this will be the first episode for Pride Month. And I wanted to make sure that I get all sorts of different representations of Pride for the upcoming month. And I intend to do that with just every single episode. With this week's, for those who do not know, Tagg identifies as asexual, and I thought that was a good start when it comes to the representation. Plus, I also was able to represent a different kind of art with video games, because I think I only had one video game designer on the podcast before Tagg, and that was Antonio Freire. And you know, I want to include more game development because I've said this a million times before. Games should be considered an art form. But back to the original point, like, especially with the next couple weeks, 4 after this episode, I want to make sure that there is good representation. There's always been good representation with this podcast, I feel like. I don't go out of my way to try to find people that are in Pride. I just happen to find good artists, and they happen to represent somewhere in the spectrum. That's always been more or less the mentality of just presenting good artists, no matter how they identify, no matter what their sexual orientation is, no matter what their affiliation is or whatnot. If they are presenting incredible art, they deserve some time on this podcast. And that's why I was more than happy to have Tagg on. I if nothing else, like, Tagg is just fun. Tagg was just a fun conversation to have. I knew he was going to bring a good energy, a good vibe to it, and it was incredible what you were able to do, Tagg, and I appreciate you taking the time to do this. It was a fun conversation. But especially with the next couple of weeks, and hell, for just from now on, with everything that's kind of going on or whatnot, good or bad, I guess what I'm trying to say is for today's little inspirational thing is just go forth and just be you. You know, you've made it this far being yourself. You guys are doing incredible stuff. Each and every single one of you are doing absolutely incredible stuff. And I am glad every single time I see some lovely artwork come across my timeline. Especially if it's done by someone I had never seen their art before. I am honored to get to really know you guys. And I'm honored to really get to see and appreciate your art. I'll tell this little story to kind of leave it off. I recently was talking to one of my uncles, and we were talking about like the different kind of artists out there. We were talking about the different forms of art or whatnot. And you know, one of the things I told him was that for a lot of these guests, it's their first time ever appearing on a podcast, and he was amazed by that. Because, like I've been trying to emphasize with this podcast, he was amazed that, like, there's these people that do this incredible stuff, but, like, no one is really giving them the time to really showcase who they are. Really get to know them as artists. And that's something that I try to emphasize with this podcast. And I know you guys are out there really showcasing who you are, really putting your heart and soul into just about every little thing that you do, putting your personality in every little ounce of effort that you do with it. And I see that, I recognize that, and I love that. I love that for each and every single one of you, and I sincerely hope that you guys can keep it up. You guys are doing outstanding out there, and I love every little bit that I get to see. So if you know that it truly enriches you with the art that you're producing, if it allows you to truly express yourself and be the true you, no matter how you identify, no matter who you are, no matter what you do, if it's truly enriching, don't stop. Do it. You love it. I know you love it. I can see it whenever you can really put forth something that you put a lot of love, passion, and emotion into. So do what you can to really showcase that, and people will truly love and recognize it. I know you guys can produce some outstanding stuff, so don't stop. Don't stop that love and passion. Keep up the incredible work.